Irish of you.
How
Hey everyone, welcome back to The Moment Live. It's your Irish pal, Meredith Lynch, and I'm joined by my Irish by association, Rebecca Sananès.
I love the Irish.
You know, it's funny. Did you know that Freud allegedly said that the Irish were the one group of people that he could not psychoanalyze? And as someone who spends a lot of time with an Irish person, how do you feel about that statement?
I think Jewish people are the easiest people to psychoanalyze. And the Irish are the hardest to psycho. I fully sign on to that stereotype, stereotype approved.
Yeah, I think it's because there's so much darkness in the Irish, but there's very little awareness of talking about it. Like, that's the difference, I think, between Jewish folks and Irish folks.
I think also like maybe there's like a Catholic, like we don't talk about it thing. And like a big part of Jewish culture is like unpacking things, like the whole religion, and not just religion, the whole ethnicity. I don't actually even know that much about the religion, to be honest, but the whole ethnicity is about arguing and unpacking, which is just like what psychologists do with your brains. Whereas like the Catholics are like, no,
not going to talk about that.
Not going to talk about it.
I'll tell you.
We're going to talk about it today.
We're going to talk about a lot of things today. What's on the agenda? Let's check it out. We are going to talk about the Oscars. It was a pretty good night for movies, and you are a big Oscar fan, so we're going to talk about that. There were some political moments. Then we both watched Inside the Manosphere with Louis Theroux, who I'm a huge Louis Theroux fan. We're going to talk about that and my new obsession with HHS Tiki-Taki, which is actually a great username, and I'm just upset that I didn't think of it.
I know.
Trump's at war with Iran, and
still,
and Kristi Noem is fired, and also I think Greg Bovino is retiring. One of the great things about a government job is an early retirement. So anyway, and we have V stopping by to do Iran and Kristi Noem with us. So let's get into it. You watched the Oscars. You're a big Oscars fan.
I sure did. Happy St. Patrick's Day to Jessie Buckley specifically, who is apparently the first Irish woman to win Best Actress.
And it was Mother's Day, and she's a new mom. It was Mother's Day in the UK, and she's a new mom.
And she shouted that out. I watched Hamnet on Friday night, and I really, like, not to be glib, but
okay, Matt Lauer.
Yeah, I know. I learned that. I learned that word from Tom Cruise. It was like, you're being glib. You're being glib.
Oh, right. Do you know that I hate Matt Lauer so much that I like Scientology?
I've been in the Scientology building. Anyways, speaking of Scientology, the Oscars.
We need an after show.
Yeah. Okay, Hamnet. I was sort of like, a period piece where the kid dies. Like, show me something I haven't seen. It was devastating. And Jessie Buckley was incredible. I think everybody knew she swept the award season. Everybody thought she was going to do it. I personally can't think of somebody else that I was like, yeah, they were better suited.
Can you remind me what Hamnet is about? Because I think Hamnet, I was like, oh, is that like a basketball version of Hamlet?
I mean, kind of. It's Chloe Zhao, who, by the way, this is her second movie that got a woman to Best Actress. So like, sign of a good director, even though she hasn't won Best Director. But Hamnet is about like a young William Shakespeare who's living in the countryside. He's a teacher. He meets Jessie Buckley, who's sort of like this like feral pagan woman. Like, she's an interesting character, and they get together. And the first half of the movie is sort of they're getting together and having a child together as he's building his career. And then halfway through, one of her children contracts and dies of the bubonic plague, which, by the way, while I was watching it, because part of what made it so powerful.
She has
Chloe
one
Zhao has one
director.
Best director. I apologize.
Gabby in the booth is really coming through today with because we got an Oscar buff in there too. I'm not an Oscar buff. I'm like, I did see Hamlet 2 though. If anybody's seen Hamlet 2, that's a great movie.
Wait, what? Hamlet dies at the end.
Oh, that's what you think. You've never seen Hamlet 2.
Anyways, he dies of the bubonic plague. It's this really agonizing, like it is truly, it's deeply upsetting in a way that my brain said, how could anybody not vaccinate their kids? I know that we're not vaccinating against bubonic plague, but it was like the thought of your child dying.
We're not vaccinating against it because we've eliminated it for the most part.
But you know what I'm saying is like, if you could avoid this scenario in any way, I don't know why you wouldn't. And anyways, the second half of the movie, William Shakespeare is writing Hamlet, and it's him dealing with the grief of his child, and you watch Hamlet through that lens and the mother, and it's it's traumatic, but the acting was incredible. I really like Paul Mescal. He was not nominated for anything, but like, I don't know, he's got like actor vibes. I do feel like it was Sinner's night, and I think everybody was really happy about that. Michael B. Jordan won Best Actor. I think literally everybody in America, that's what they wanted. One Battle After Another won Best Picture. I think a lot of people wanted Sinners to win. I liked One Battle After Another. I'm not saying over Sinners, but like, I did like it. I know a lot of people hated it, but what are you going to do? The things that I want to talk about were some of like the political moments, which were, I don't know,
few and far between, right?
That's the word that I was going to use.
It felt few and far between to me.
Yeah, it felt few and far between. I want to play. Javier Bardem was the only person who showed up with a no war pin, which felt surprising to me because I feel like the war feels like an easy one to be against. But let's play that clip and talk about it on the other side.
No to war.
Okay. Priyanka Chopra, can't you feel the wheels in her head turning there? Can't you feel her being like, oh, do I smile? Do I nod? Am I for this? Is this going to affect Joe Jonas? Like, it was amazing. I don't know. Something about her face to me said like, are we doing this? Is this okay? Yeah. Like she's like, maybe.
I also think it's like, you don't know what's going to come next.
Yes, true. Is he going to slap somebody?
Like, I mean, you just don't know what's going to come next. Like, you're like, no war. Yes. Free Palestine. Yes. What could come next, right?
I mean, I do think that those are sort of like the big slogan, you know.
Sure, yeah. And I mean, I think when you're like no war, I'm like, what are you, me in like second grade when I like first learned about the Civil War?
I'm kind of surprised that we didn't see more people doing this because it feels very 2002 coded. You know what I mean? Like feels like an easy, you know, nobody wants the war. I don't know. It was surprising to me that he was the only one that did that. But I thought the most interesting political moment was the winner of the best documentary, Mr. Nobody Against Putin. And his speech to me was like, that was the most stand up and listen. This is the kind of thing that you need to hear in retrospect. Do we have that clip?
I mean, so basically we got to get ICE out of the fucking streets.
I mean, like it was striking to me because he's both so clearly talking about what's happening in the United States right now and Russia. Like he said a lot without saying a lot. Right. He didn't say Mr. Trump. It was, you know, like I think it's a moment that didn't get that much pickup because it had a lot of nuance. It was also interesting to me that the people in the room cheered a lot about oligarchs and media because that's what they're familiar with and that's what's affecting them.
Yeah, but half of them hang out with them all the fucking time.
100%.
That's what's such bullshit. Like
I know. Go ahead. Yeah.
I don't know. I just think it's bullshit.
I had that thought with Leonardo DiCaprio, who sits there and he's got like, you know, you're like, oh, Leo. And then you're like, yeah, Leo. I don't know. Yeah, I agree. Good point.
Yeah. So I think they like to clap when it suits them. They're actors.
Well, okay. I think that's like the exit. We've talked about this before. That's the problem with celebrities in politics. On the one hand, I'm like, I want to see them using their platform to talk about these things. On the other hand, like, you know, with all due respect, nothing could be less saying something than free Palestine, no war. You know what I mean? Like, what does that even mean at this point in time?
I don't know.
You know, like it is like a lot of platitudes. And on the other hand, I was like, I'm glad Javier Bardem said something.
Well, you're damned if you do, if you damned if you don't. So like, and I think like celebrities will say that even when I've said things about them, they're like, oh, well, but I do think like we also have to keep in mind that there's probably so many threats now to celebrities about what you say politically.
100%.
Like you won't get to present next year. Right. And you're like, shit, like I need to present because that raises my platform, which means that I make more money, which means that in this industry pays nothing. So,
well, and that's what like the Jennifer Lawrence, remember when she went on the New York Times podcast and she was like, I don't think people want to hear, like I do politics through my art. And, you know, I think everybody in art and celebrity more specifically is figuring out exactly what it is they should or shouldn't say. And I think that let's talk about Conan O'Brien because I actually thought he was hilarious. I always think Conan O'Brien is really funny. Like, you know, he always hits. I thought that this one he made like an Epstein joke, and let's play that one because I really like that one.
Okay, can I weigh in as the comedian,
please?
It's not that funny of a joke.
Whoa. Our friend Lori Kilmartin possibly wrote that.
Well, I'm sorry, Lori. I know she's up bright and early, right? Watching this live. I just don't like, I just don't think that's that, like, people can get mad at me. I don't think that's that funny of a joke. It's like oh, there's nobody nominated to.
He went a long way to get there.
Yes, it's a lot. It's a lot of work to get to the punchline, which isn't really like royal family is not related back to movies. So it's just, for me, it's a little disjointed of a joke.
There you go. That's some writing advice for you this morning.
I'm allowed to say that.
Yeah. His other joke, which I don't think we have a clip of, but he said we're in the has a small penis theater, and he said, do you think Trump will want to put his name on that?
See, that's funny.
Okay, sorry, I picked the wrong joke.
No, it's okay. Like, I mean, that was the joke also too. I'm like, oh, shout out to my Irish pals, because like, aren't they so glad that not only they won, but no British person was nominated for Best Actress.
That's true.
You know, it took a little while for you guys to fully get revenge. Jessie
Buckley even said something in Gaelic at the end, I believe.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Not that I even begin to know what she said, but yeah, I was like, I think that's Gaelic.
Well, let's talk about a movie that wasn't nominated, but I guess it could be nominated next year. That is the new documentary Inside the Manosphere with Louis Theroux, which I'm such a Louis. Is it Louis?
I think it's Louis.
Louis Theroux. I'm such a Louis Theroux fan. I think he's probably and he's a white dude, so you know this is high praise. I think he's one of the best documentarians out there.
He's sort of Michael Moore 2026, but like more likable.
Yeah, and more reasonable too. Like, I think he's more meeting viewers where they are, as opposed to trying to push. Like, Michael Moore was pushing a lot of stuff on us, and I was like, I don't know if we're ready to have that conversation about 9/11 just yet, sir. So I watched this documentary the other night.
Yep,
and I think we have a couple of clips of it. But we had different reactions to it, but I hadn't seen the whole thing yet. And so now let's
talk about it. Let's watch the clip and then we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
When I put my dick in you.
Yeah. So do I literally mean, oh, yeah, I want to smash right now and you're on your period? And she's like, no, I don't want to do it right now. Like, that's fine. Like, obviously you don't do it. But I need guys to kind of have this mindset where it's like, you're the leader, you're assertive, you're dominant, you're the dictator of the relationship. What you say goes.
Do you consider yourself a misogynist?
No, because misogyny would be the hatred of women. I would argue I love women and I actually understand them. So since I understand them, I know what's best for them.
You think you know better than they do?
Yes, in many ways, yeah. And that's how women want it. They want a guy that can lead them and dominate them.
Here, I will say this. I do know better than my husband, because my husband last night was like, this was my husband last night. He goes, you know, it would be great. An ad where Larry Bird and Charles Barkley think that they're meeting up with Michael Jordan, but they're actually meeting up with Michael B. Jordan. I was like, okay. Yeah, thank you, Mike. That was amazing. My husband goes, he must go by Michael B. Jordan so he doesn't get confused with Michael Jordan. I was like, or maybe Michael Jordan goes by Michael Jordan so he doesn't get confused with being Michael B. Jordan.
Wow.
Right? Boom. But to that point, I think one of the things, first of all, I'd love to know the actual definition of misogyny, because I don't know that it would actually involve the hatred of women. You know what I mean?
I think it probably does, but let's see.
Let's see what it says.
Dislike of, contempt for, or ingrained prejudice against women.
The fact to me, it's the ingrained prejudice. It's not it's like, I think a lot of people, I mean, I have internalized misogyny. We all have misogyny. So it's sort of like, oh, do you think you're a misogynist? And it's like, I think that a lot of people aren't even willing to engage in what that conversation looks like.
Yeah, I don't think men are I think misogyny is a cultural problem. It's not just men. It's just that the ways that men act on that misogyny and their power is different than how women interact with it.
And so I do feel like there are so many concerning things about this documentary. And one of the things that I found the most concerning, and I'd love to hear what you think of this, is just the amount of teen boys who see, so basically these men, there are these sort of like 4 or 5 content creator influencer type guys who Louis Theroux walks around with, spends time with, just kind of like, I would say, like, it wasn't like deep dive investigative reporting.
He was just sort of chilling with them and being like, what's a day like?
Right. And so, but one of the things that we experience in that is them sort of going out in the streets of New York City, Ibiza, Miami, and just the amount of teenage boys that are coming up and being like, hey, oh my God, I love your content, or saying to them, like, you know, horrible things about LGBTQ plus people, about Jewish people. Like
there's so many ripple effects too, right? Like it starts with, and this is a part that I have empathy for. It starts with figuring out what men are supposed to be in 2026. And I think that is, you know, I think like post Me Too, I think there was a big women's movement in the 2010s. And I think that was a net good. But I think men started to be like, who am I? How do I fit into this? There wasn't an equivalent for men. And I think this is partially men trying to figure out who they are supposed to be in society. But really, it ends up coming out in all these toxic ways. And then there's all these ripple effects of conspiracy theories and, you know, just like ways of being in the world that I think ripple out in ways, like there were things that I heard in the documentary that I'm like, I've heard that in other spaces other than the Manosphere now. Like it's trickled so far out. Yeah, it was fascinating to me.
Yeah, and I will just say, like, I know not every single one of these kids probably has the perfect caregiving situation at home, but like a lot of you are raising sons that are running around New York City or Miami and seeing these people and being really excited by them. And I'm just like, oh, that's really concerning that like there isn't enough conversations happening at home to be like, yeah, we don't talk like that. We don't watch that. Or like I think that part of this is just the fact that kids have so much privacy with their phones now. And I'm not saying take phones away from kids, but
did you see Adolescents?
Yes, I did. But the other piece of it that I wanted to say is I was like, you know what? Bring back the draft.
That's what these guys want.
No, like here's
what they want. They want, that's what I'm saying is like there's a fundamental lack of like purpose and prescription around what it means to be a man. And I think that's true of women too, but women are better at finding community and like pushing back against things and figuring it out together. And these men are just so lost that they're like gripping towards anything.
Well, I think a big problem that we're not talking about is income inequality. Like
100%.
At the core of this
100%
is income inequality. And a lot of people are not making as much money as they should, and including men. So,
and men, I think, derive more of their self-worth and sense of purpose in the world as related to money than women. Like, I think women are socialized to think of money as like, how do I use it for my community, for my safety, for my security, for my sense of femininity? And I think it's like ancillary to how we relate to the world, whereas men are more socialized to be like, your worth is how much money you bring in. Like that is the competition. I think that's like a big Scott Galloway thing.
Sure. Well, I think we have our guest in the house.
Yeah. The boys are back in town. Do we have V?
Yeah, I'm here. Hello, bonjour.
Yay!
Happy St. Patrick's Day to all who celebrate.
Are you luck of the Irish?
Yes, but I only really invoke it on St. Patrick's Day. So I'm mostly Albanian, but my father's entire family is straight Irish and American. So I do the little hat. We're going to go to an Irish bar and we're going to be Irish today.
I love it. I love the Irish,
It's a good time.
Did you definitely saw Say Nothing. Did you ever read the book or watch the TV show Say Nothing?
No, but I do have a shamrock tattoo. So I think that is probably the same thing.
It's the same thing. It's terrific if you've seen it. It's a nonfiction book by Patrick Radden Keefe about the IRA during the Troubles, the Irish Republican Army. And it's fantastic. But what I was going to say is when I read it, I listened to it on audiobook by somebody with a North Irish accent. And I am of the opinion that the North Irish accent is the correct way to speak English.
Okay.
That should be the standard dialect. It is so beautiful. And I think the rest of us are speaking English, self-included, incorrectly. That's my hot take today.
Yes,
here's
my
hot
not the
take.
Boston.
Exactly.
Not the Boston.
No. It's got to be that North Irish,
classy.
Here's my hot take. I love the fact that the Irish were being, starved by the British, horrible things happening in Northern Ireland, right?
Which I learned from a Sinead O'Connor song. So
talk
about an education.
Here's what I find as 100% Irish. My sister got the 23andMe back, and I was like, I'm not even going to try because it's just Irish.
Shamrock.
Yeah, but
Meredith Lynch. Yes,
right. There's nothing more Irish than going through an absolute trauma and just calling it the Troubles.
Yes, correct.
When my mother had a very traumatic miscarriage, my Irish relatives called it her tummy troubles.
Oh, no. That's terrible, Meredith.
So it's so Irish. It's horrible, it's awful, but it's so Irish to be there's bombings happening and everything's horrible and we're being starved and we're colonized, etc. And you're like, we just call it the Troubles. The Troubles.
It was a rough time. Yes.
But it's also so lyrical. Go ahead, V.
It's whimsical. You have to have a little whimsy in the Irish, This morning we were trying to figure out, because my dogs, one of them is a Yorkie, so she must be English. So I was like, okay. And she's also a devout Catholic, according to the dog psychic. So, and she would prefer to go by the name Mary, not Little. This is all real. And we do it because I believe in everything, right? Yeah. And then the other two are German, though, because they're Dachshunds. And then my wife was like, do you think that Dottie is Protestant? And I was like, we should find out. These are things that we need to know, because Rita very much gives Catholic, but I think there could be a little separation in our family. So we're trying to figure that out.
I love this so much. I've never done, my dogs are Jewish. They just are. Obviously. But what I love to ask people is who would play your dog in a movie? That's my favorite. That's my favorite weird dog question. My dogs would be played by Seth Rogen and Cola Scola, for what it's worth.
That's great. I'm going to have to think about that a little bit more.
Come back to me. Let me know who your dogs are, who we're casting.
I think Rita, I could say straight off, would be played by Megan Statler. I think that's the only one that immediately came to mind. I was yes.
Yeah, there's an answer to these questions.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you some questions that don't have answers. What the hell is going on in Iran? I think this morning, I want to apologize. I was live, so I didn't catch your live. But I think you were going to be doing some conversation around just what's the latest in Iran. And so can you bring us up to speed? Because yesterday, guess what I heard? Yesterday, I heard the new supreme leader, he might be dead. The son, he could be dead.
I also heard he could be gay.
Yeah, I was going to say, Rebs, he also could be a homosexual. There's a lot of propaganda coming out about Iran right now, and it sounds exactly like the things that the 12-year-old boys running our military would come up with. They'd be like, no, he's not dead, he's gay. It's giving he's probably gay, no homo. They're so immature.
Which, by the way, nobody codes gayer than Pete Hegseth. I'm sorry. I live in West Hollywood, and I'm like, he is such a go-go dancer.
He's trade. He's absolutely trade. He's military for military. Yeah. He's mess.
Military for military. That's so funny.
Yeah. He's butch. So here's what's going on in Iran. So there's two things that are happening right now. There's the propaganda war of what's going on in Iran that we're seeing play out on American television and in social media in different places, which is where you're seeing different parts of the Iranian diaspora show up in different ways. And you have a section of them being like, Donald Trump is doing the perfect thing. This is what the people of Iran want. We want the Shah back. They're monarchists. They have maybe they're living in exile. Oftentimes they're folks who are able to be on American television because they're not in Iran proper. They maybe have family there. They wish to be able to return. And sometimes I think some of those folks, I'm like, wow, like the generational trauma that you have is maybe making you believe things that aren't something that I think is going to happen necessarily because I don't trust Donald Trump. And it reminds me of how some of the Epstein victims voted for Donald Trump and are now outspoken about the fact that they did it because he promised them in person, like to their faces, that he would release the Epstein files and prosecute people. Donald Trump is a liar. And unfortunately, people who have deep trauma will believe him because they have to believe to have hope to survive. So there's some of that going on. And I want folks to kind of be mindful of that when you're like, well, why are some people celebrating and some Iranians are not? And it's a little bit of that. It's like what we saw in Venezuela. Oh my gosh, all these people are celebrating in the streets, but in the streets of Venezuela, they were not. So we got to just, many things are true at once. And that's one thing I want everyone to be sort of like thinking about as you're taking in all of this constant information. Now, when it comes to the ground game in Iran, their missiles have slowed up a little bit, but not stopped. They are still bombing neighboring territories, Dubai, the United Arab Emirates, Jordan. They're still getting missiles out, Israel, and they are still being heavily hit. Donald Trump really thought that he was going to be able to get Europe to send warships to secure the Strait of Hormuz so that they could, just like take all the oil that they wanted to. Problem with that is, 2 weeks ago, Donald Trump promised that the United States Navy would be the ones to do that escorting. Why don't you want to do it? Yeah. Now you're saying NATO has to do it or you'll break up NATO. And NATO is saying,
again, right? Like
we're not doing it.
Yeah.
We're not doing it because we can't get insurance for our ships. There's this company called Lloyd's of London, and they do all the insurance for ships, like for anybody, and they're insuring stuff at like 24 times normal. So nobody can even afford. It's like you wouldn't drive your car 2,000 miles an hour into a tree if you didn't think you had insurance. Well, that's what they're asking the NATO countries to do.
I think we have a clip of Trump being very upset that our allies will not join us here. Do we have that clip, Vienna?
Countries have told me they're on the way. Some are very enthusiastic about it, and some aren't. Some are countries that we've helped for many, many years. We've protected them from horrible outside sources, and they weren't that enthusiastic. And I've always felt that was a weakness of NATO. We built the greatest military in the world, and we protect people. And if we need their mine boats, or if we need anything, any piece of apparatus that they may have because of a situation that they have, they should be jumping to help us because we've helped them for years stay out of wars. Yeah, please.
Yeah, so he's lying. NATO, like they buy stuff from us. They pay for us. We don't just do this out of the goodness of our life.
The way that he was like, he's lying. Like it's like when
it's like when I was like in, I don't know, like math in 6th grade, and like she would be like, Meredith's missing 14 assignments, and I'd be like, no, I'm not. Well, she's lying.
Yeah. So just to set stuff off there. So he mentioned 3 things though that I think are important, because Donald Trump only knows a little bit about everything. And he doesn't, and he only hears what he wants to hear about it. So when he's saying, well, we should be able to use their mine boats, well, that's because Donald Trump had our mine detection boats decommissioned and sunk. So why we did that, I don't know. Sounds like something that benefits Russia. But we pulled our mine detection boats out of the Strait of Hormuz in the beginning part of his term. So that was bad. And he's saying if they have an asset that we need to use, something that we need to use, it's because the UK did not want to become a stationing base for our missiles and F-15s and F-35s and stuff. So he wasn't letting them land at Diego or at RAF or whatever, because the UK does not want, and NATO allies in Europe is like, look, man, we're trying to focus on Ukraine Okay. And a lot of the stuff that you're doing is benefiting Russia, putting money in Russia's coffers, allowing Russia to sell oil to everybody now, which is funding their war with Ukraine, which is a direct threat to Europe. Europe and the US doesn't seem too focused on Ukraine. So Europe has to focus on Ukraine because we can't be alone out here. Right. So we can't be like letting you use our air bases, which could potentially be blown up if Iran starts targeting bases where American assets are, where the war is coming from, because we need to defend Ukraine. Germany laughed on the phone, audibly laughed when they said, you need to send warships to guard the Strait of Hormuz. Thought he was joking.
Well, let me ask you this. How many more weapons do we think Iran has? Because obviously, like, they don't have the arsenal that like the US and Israel have. And so how much longer can they keep up with this? And at the same time, who will fund Iran?
So let's talk about the other person that Trump went to for help this week, China. So he can't get NATO or any of the European allies to help him. So he thinks he's going to leverage his long talked about trip to China. And like Xi Jinping is going to flood his basement and rust his Bowplex. To what end? To what end? No. Do you guys know that TikTok sound? I'm obsessed with it. Yes. Okay. Yeah. You can't say Xi Jinping without it now. They think that he's going to help. So he went to China and is asking China for help to escort oil in and out of Iran when China and Iran are partners. China, Russia, Iran, right? The BRICS countries. Right. So it's just like, one, it's such a show of weakness and groveling and stupidity. Two, they were never going to do that. They're now starting to talk a little bit about some difference that they might be making in the way they're treating Taiwan. I don't even have time to get into that today. That we'll have to do that next week, but there's some Taiwan stuff going on. And they're not going to do that either. So right now, Donald Trump is out there fairly alone. How much longer can Iran shoot off missiles? A while, because they will get arms from Russia, from China.
Cheaper missiles, right? Yep. Like, aren't there all these missiles that they have, like these drones that cost $30,000 a pop?
They're cheap.
And so they have a bunch of them, but the United States, like, in order to shoot them down, it's like much more expensive. So in a lot of ways, they were outgunning us, like.
Well, there could be annoying. Stochastic terrorism is the thing that they are excellent at, which is that they're not going to say, like, strategically, we're going to blow up this one base. Right. They're like, we're going to pop off all over the place like a spider monkey, and you're never going to be able to catch us, and it's going to be annoying. And what it's doing is it's scaring people. It's scaring all the rich people in Dubai from staying in Dubai, which is a major part of like the Middle East's economy and like this idea that it's a great place to be and all this stuff. And so that's falling apart. Of course, Qatar doesn't love that. But
did you know I turned down a brand trip to Dubai?
So did I. Good for you. You should.
I know. It would have paid me big money.
Yeah.
Big money. And I turned it down. I did. Yep. I know. It was like probably like 4 or 5 months ago. Not the other brand deal that I turned down, guys. But
that one I know about.
Yeah. And like, I think, anyway, we can talk about it offline.
Creators should be turning down trips to Qatar and any other sort of attempt to soften what's going on there, because the reason why you're having such a good time is because the entire population that props it up is enslaved. So you can't go there on good conscience. And they tried to get me to go on a brand trip, and they tried to get me to go on Billion Creators, and they tried to get me to go to COP28 when they were like, well, it's environment. And I was like, no. I was like, I'm a visibly gay person. And they're like, you'll be okay. And I'm like, I will be okay, but that doesn't set a good example for the rest of the world.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yes. Right.
Period. We don't mess with Qatar. Also, I don't want to talk about them anymore. They scare me. Okay. Go ahead.
They are scary. I know they're scary. One thing I want to say, just like before we move off this topic, is I feel like in part, like we're just seeing the United States fall apart as a world power, because our NATO allies, we've been like shitting on them for the past year, and they're finally like, wait, I'm sorry, you want us to join your war that you chose to come in, that you haven't justified or gone to Congress for?
No.
Not that I think they're worried about Congress, but
and after they're calling Canada the 51st state, after they're saying that France is a shit country, that the England is weak, that all of these different things, like, forget it. The thing you need to look out for this week, and this is what Eric was telling me, is China on Taiwan changing their language, and the fact that Israel did a practice round, boots on the ground in Lebanon. And we are very likely to see boots on the ground or some sort of American incursion into Iraq, because the problem is Iran. Now, I used to think Iran, because we grew up in America education and maps, they make all the other countries look very small and ours look very big, visibly. Right. So I thought Iran was like the size of Rhode Island, right? Because when you look at a map all growing up, you have no concept. Some people think that the Middle East is one place, right? Like we have no concept as Americans. We're kept ignorant. So you're not at fault if you didn't think that.
Middle East. I'm like, what is this, a Tolkien novel? Like, come on, it's a real place.
So Iran is quite large, and next to it is Iraq, which is quite large, very mountainous. You cannot win a war with aerial attack only. You have to have boots on the ground to do regime change. And so all of the militias that are sort of Iranian friendly are now posted up, you know, in Afghanistan and Iraq and surrounding the area. And so the only way to sort of stop that is to like continue bombing Iran, right, which is horrific and going to drive up the cost of oil and goods and power, and people will die because of this. And now putting boots on the ground in those surrounding areas to try and take out the small militias. And that's what I am hearing we are potentially considering this week, is some sort of incursion in Iraq, which is just nuts.
Can I just add to, like, one of the things that really I keep coming back to with all of this is like our eyes are all on this, which makes sense completely, right? But at the same time, the ICE deportations, arrests, et cetera, are continuing. There are more folks who have died in ICE custody. And I just think it's really important to remember that the way that this administration is approaching deportations and arrests is wildly unpopular, bipartisan. And so I just think it's really important for people to remember there's a reason why we can't figure out everything that's happening in Iran, because to be honest with you, the deportation stuff is kind of straightforward. It's like, oh, you know, I was reading the other day, 22% of arrests in the previous Trump administration happened in community spaces. So like, I'm not saying that's good, but it's like they'd happen like outside schools, they'd happen in parks, in public, right? That number has like tripled in this last year of where these people are arrested. So this has changed dramatically, and there's a reason why they want you confused by the war in Iran so they can keep doing this. So anyway, I just want to keep eyes on ICE and all of this as we continue to have these conversations.
I want to add something about the ICE because you bring up such an excellent point. We rely, as Americans, we rely heavily on what are called like interpreters or stringers or SIBs, right? And there's a special visa that is offered to people who, you know, speak Persian or Farsi that aid the United States military in the things that we do when we go into these places. And some of those Afghan civs were special immigration visa, were given asylum here in the United States, and they have been picked up and now put into detention. These are people that aided us. They are military service members, technically. I mean, they're with us for years. We cannot do the work we do without them. And it is very poorly timed and certainly will be noticed by people who might be helpers to the American people or American soldiers over there, that Mohammed, Paktyawal. I don't want to say it wrong. Paktyawal, a 41-year-old Afghan asylum seeker who worked with U.S. Special Forces, died in ICE custody just 2 days ago on March 14th, less than 24 hours after being detained in Richardson, Texas. He is the father of 6. He was evacuated in 2021, and he died in less than 24 hours in ICE detention in Texas. And this will be something that people who would have otherwise been allies to us or have helped us are going to say, why would I do that now? So it's very bad.
100%. Speaking of DHS, one last thing before you go. I feel like what we do on the show is like replicate our text chain.
Yes.
And one of the things we were texting about, V, is how crazy the airport is because DHS funding is halted. You know, Democrats.
So it's partial government shutdown.
It's a partial government shutdown. I do think that Democrats are doing what I would like them to be doing, which is like fighting for ICE reforms. We'll see where it gets. They have to. But it's one of those things that's just sort of running in the background because like it is so far in the background. There's like lines around the corner at an Austin airport. What happened to you? You were talking to us about this.
So we have grounded all air travel for Under the Desk News for the foreseeable future because I don't mess with this. Okay. So the TSA agents aren't just not showing up to work because they're not getting paid this week. They're fully quitting their jobs. So there will be there's no like bringing them back if they were to fund the thing right now. And I wonder how much of the American public is, not to be conspiratorial, but you have to think a little bit bigger. Day one, that we were in DC, my wife was flying back. There's a suspicious package in D gate and she had to be evacuated and her flight was delayed. She eventually got out. Then my flight the very next day at 6 a.m. gets canceled. No answer. Then it gets delayed at 5 and they're like, oh, there's problems with communications. Then there was like a smell that was funny in TravCom, which is like the central command for DC area airports.
I had the beans last night. That was
I know, but me, like, as a hypervigilant, very scared person, I was like, this ain't for me. So we get on the plane. They take us halfway out there. They're like, we've lost like contact. So we have to come back to the gate. And I just said to the flight attendant, I was like, I should get my bag, right? And she was like, I would. And I was like, okay. So I got my bag. I rented a car and I drove the 7 hours home and we've canceled all airline stuff. I missed South by Southwest. Devastated. Missed South by Southwest. So upset about that because there's so much. We were doing really, really good panels down there. And I'm like, this sucks. I don't trust the airports. I don't trust the Secretary of Homeland or travel right now. So if you are traveling, really consider it and consider the fact that if you are traveling internationally, we do not have ambassadors or functional embassies in a lot of the world right now. So keep that in mind too. Make sure you double check.
Well, the other thing I'd say is if you do have to travel, which I understand things happen, be nice to these TSA agents. And I don't mean just so I was looking at it last night. The starting salary for a lot of TSA agents is $34,000 a year. And what a lot of people will say to you is they'll go, yeah, the government's shut down now, but a lot of them are going to get paid at back pay. Who cares in this economy that we live in? I don't care if you have $5,000 coming to you in a month when the government reopens. You need that money now. People are saying like, I can't go to work because I can't afford to send my kid to daycare anymore.
Right. So I can't put $80 of gas in the tank to go to work if I'm not getting paid. Gas is way up.
Up because of Iran. Right. I mean, this is sort of like a broader conversation, and this is why we're gonna have you back real soon. But I feel like, how are we not headed to some sort of economic collapse? I think people, right? I mean, like, there's just no way that this is not like, you just look at this and you're like, how is it possible? Like, oil is going up, people are out of work. I just
yes, Mars. Me too. You know what? This is why we live in Rochester, New York. People are like, isn't it easier to live in a big city? I'm like, no, ma'am. I live near the closest body of fresh water that provides to this entire area. I've got a nice house. We got a pool table that we inherited when we bought the house. And I love my wife. So I'm staying home. I stay home. Stay home.
I might regret saying this, but like, Ted Kaczynski is my favorite Harvard graduate. Like, he was like kind of on to something. I'm not saying he executed it correctly, but in retrospect, I'm a little like, you know
what? To help balance you, I'm just going to say this. If they'd approached me on the right day, I would have considered joining the IRA.
Hey,
not just for the accent. Not just for the accent.
Don't tase me, NSA.
Well, happy St. Patrick's Day, everyone.
Thank you so much for stopping by. As always, it's great to see you. We'll see you back real soon.
You're the best. Bye,
girls.
Well, let's see.
Do you think we're going to get arrested?
I mean, honestly, at the rate that I'm going, there's many things that could get me there. So tell me, what's having a moment for you?
Okay. Well, one of the things we didn't talk about is I'm more convinced than ever that Tucker Carlson is going to run for president in 2028.
Why would you say that? That's so funny.
Okay. So my moment is SNL did the best impression of Tucker Carlson I've ever seen. This cast member, I watched him on TikTok for many, many years, and to see him now on SNL, but I just want to play. This had me dying. This Tucker Carlson impression on SNL. It's what's having a moment for me. That's the rule. That's the goal now. Jeremy Culhane, I thought that was the best Tucker Carlson impression. And I really think that Tucker Carlson is like, he's going to be the answer to the next Republican Party. And I think we're going to see plenty more of that impression. So that's what's having a moment for me.
Remember when Tucker Carlson went to Russia and he was like,
I sure do.
This place is amazing. Why don't we have grocery stores like this? And then
that's the rule. That's the goal.
And then the next day, Putin like fucking dragged him so hard. It was like when they invite the like geeky kid to the party.
Totally.
And then they were like, dude,
we got him to drink a bunch of beer.
Right, exactly. They're like, dude, you're still not cool.
Yeah.
We don't fucking want you either.
But I really think, like, I just want to, this is hilarious to me, but I really feel like he's done a really good job of being like the anti-war voice on the Republican side. He's very anti-Israel. And I do think that like he has the audience and the charisma. Like he's the only person who I think could pick up the Trump mantle. And he is doing a good job of positioning himself differently than what Trump is doing. And I think it's going to be hard for the left unless they become very anti-war to compete with that.
I don't know. Maybe we'll see Carlson Owens
2028.
Yeah, 2028.
God. What's having a moment for you?
You know what's having a moment for me? A new playlist. I got a new playlist that I'm absolutely loving. Vienna's got a screenshot right here. It's TRL Top 99 of 1999.
Wow.
And
These are great songs.
This playlist is so wild to me because it's so pre 9/11. Like
Totally.
there's so like I'm like Mambo number 5 would not have existed after 9/11. And Gen Z, you just need to understand that like there was so much
Mambo number 5.
There was so much promise in this playlist. There was a song.
Hey now, you're an all-star. I'm like looking, you know.
It's such a good playlist and I have just been jamming out to it. My favorite, I will say, is Will 2K, which like that song. You have to understand, like, for me, it's a time capsule of like what we thought was coming in the 2000s. And then on a really beautiful, clear September morning, it all came crashing down. So anyway, yeah, look, some more of these songs. Also, too, I loved when the New Kids on the Block, like they all started these solo careers.
Yes.
Also, there's so much Kid Rock in this.
I know.
Right?
Yeah. He really fell from grace.
I know. And you know what's funny is to look at how it's Kid Rock, right?
Yep.
And then right below it is Ricky Martin. And I feel like 25, 26 years ago, if you'd said to those guys, like, hey, they're backstage at TRL, and you're like, someday you guys, like 20, almost 30 years from now, you guys are both going to be playing for the Super Bowl.
Sort of.
And like, Kid Rock's like, oh my God, we're both in the halftime show. And it's like, well, kinda.
I know we really took a left turn, but we're here. We're still here, and we're still doing wars in the Middle East. So.
We will be back on Friday.
Friday.
What day is it? With Jacob Sorboff, who wrote a great book about deportations and also about the fires in the Palisades and the Eaton fires in Altadena. So anyway, as always, want to thank Gabby in the booth, Vienna, our executive producer, and V for dropping in and dropping facts this morning.
Yeah.
All right. We'll see you guys soon.
Bye.
Bye.